Welcome to the Outer Dimensions podcast with Dave and Dre, and also we are going to be discussing who is the best Superman, but with a super episode like this, we needed a little extra help today. Say hello to our special guest, BC Radio, aka Todd.
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
Welcome. First time, folks. First time. We have said we usually don't bring guests on, but for like Dave just said, it is a super day, so we needed super extra help. And who better than a fellow pop culture nerd?
There we go.
Than Todd. So
get me on here. It's all good.
And before we start, we got a few people popping into the dimension saying hello. We got EC collecting, Colin. Of course, we got the queen of the puzzles, Vader's girl. I hope you're doing better. I know recently she's been doing a GoFundMe, taking up some issues with some medical bills. So if anyone wants to reach out through her channel, please go ahead and look her up. I believe she may still hit a GoFundMe, and please help her out. She's a great friend of the channel and of the community itself. Speaking of the community, we have Rolando, the multiversal moderator, the guy who is existing in every stream simultaneously,
he's the guy in the chair.
Present, and future.
He is everybody's.
He is the chair.
Yeah, pretty much, and the monitor.
Okay. Who else we got? We got William popping through. What up, Dave? Thank you. We got everyone saying hello to everyone. Cat says she's hanging in there. That's all you can do. I mean, she's a cat, so yeah, she's hanging by a string, just swinging around.
And Rolando, yeah, make sure you throw those links.
Thank you, Rolando, for throwing that right in there.
And he is the mod with the most in there. So folks, just be respectful of whatever we're saying, so we don't have to ban anybody, because I don't like that and nobody does. But we did forget EC, and I know that you are at the top, brother. We saw you, Colin, killing it as always. I didn't know.
I mentioned we said EC.
Oh, I'm just saying it in there myself. I felt like saying it. Maybe.
Don't worry, Colin still loves you sometimes.
I hope so.
So Dre, we're talking about who is the best Superman, but let's lay down the rules for everybody. What were our criteria for this?
So originally, Dave and I, when we started on this miniseries, the trek was to start doing this with, let's take everybody that's ever been, right? And of course, when you look at this graphic, you're like, holy crap, Andre, I want to take them all and talk about them all. But we only get like a little over an hour, and we don't like to what's the word I'm looking for? Inundate. Thank you. We don't want to inundate you with so much information. So we tried to pick only the films. So part of the
vocabulary word is inundate.
Inundate. Use it in a sentence, please. So
inundate his cousin anytime he wants.
So when we are looking at these Supermen, it had to be they had to have been in a feature film of their own. So
contrary to the graphic art we have right now,
exactly.
This is just the most badass Superman image Drake could find at the moment. So
that eliminates obviously our boy Tyler Hoechlin, who is probably one of the current best Supermen you're going to see on television.
Tom Welling, the best.
Tom Welling, the
best Clark Kent, hands down.
Dean Cain. We're going to take him out of the mix. That does take out our boy from the show Wings, who was the voice actor for Superman.
Tim Daly.
Tim Daly, thank you. He was the voice of Superman.
A brother of Tyne Daly, which was I'm blanking on the 80s show from way back when. It was a cop show, Cagney and Lacey.
Cagney and Lacey, good. And that does eliminate Brandon Routh's Kingdom. Exactly. Brandon Routh's Kingdom Come. So yes. Kingdom Come Superman, Brandon Routh, we only got him because that was from the Infinite Crisis crossover with the Legends of Tomorrow. So you have to eliminate anybody from television. So that only really leaves us with 4. And we're going to go into them, but we're going to do something extra special, because when we roll into our first one, there is a bit of controversy that Todd is going to discuss. I'm going to let our guest actually talk about it, because it is an interesting bit of controversy, and Dave actually brought up some interesting piece. So Dave, scroll us over to our first Superman, please. I'll give a little bit of the background. So obviously George Reeves, probably the most famous, some people would consider him infamous Superman of all time. Meaning
and
he
the
is
most
our
basic
first.
he's
Yes.
he's
It
got a
looked like
little
pajamas.
give on the cuff of the sleeve right there, boys.
I mean, this guy was
Actually,
the
yeah,
oldest.
and
Go ahead, Todd. Go ahead.
yeah, he was the oldest. He was I think he played until he was 45 years old. But he was also in black and white for 2 years. Something that was fascinating was like the yellow was
Cat, we're
white.
gonna get to that, Cat.
You got that? Oh, yeah. His outfit was actually like the yellow part of the outfit was white in real life. I think black was the red, and then I forget what they used for blue, but it wasn't the traditional outfit. So if somebody can find that out there, it's probably worth a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, for black and white, they didn't really need those true colors.
Exactly. But they had to trick the camera to, play around with it a little bit. So, but yeah, he's fascinating because he supposedly died by suicide, but he may or may not have been having an affair with the head of MGM Entertainment's wife at the time. And, he had people over one night. There was a lot of drinking going down. All of a sudden they hear a gunshot. He was found naked in his room with a gunshot to his head, but there's all this curiosity about other bullets being found and multiple gunshots being heard, stuff that usually wouldn't happen if it was a suicide. So this poor guy, he had an interesting career. He was in the military, but he came out and he became Superman. He was a fit dude, and he struggled for a while. Then he got this huge role, such a huge role that little kids would come up to him and point guns at him and think that he would really block the shots, but he'd have to talk people to put the guns down, put the knives down. It's very fascinating stuff.
Well, I mean,
he's an interesting character. As a person.
Even if you go back to the 50s, I mean, like the big pulp comics or the big like movies that way back when is you had like the serials of, you had Batman early on, which looked very laughable, to be perfectly honest. We had serials like the original Buck Rogers, and you had Flash Gordon. I mean, those were like the big things. This is like the first real big comic book that was actually brought into regular television. Because I mean,
this would have been Action Comics. So for those of you that don't know DC lore and history, folks, Superman actually originated in what would have been the serial called Action Comic Books. Like Batman originated in Detective Comic Books. So the serials, that's what they originally were before they got into their own books. After this would be post World War II, going more into the Cold War era, where they actually established themselves as actual superheroes in and of their own right. And
I love that Dre was able to find a screen grab. Yes, that is the queen of comedy, Lucille Ball.
I tried to. It was difficult
because actually he guest starred on her show.
Yes, he did,
as himself, as George Reeves. So she did not appear on his show, but I mean, those are two icons of classic television from way back when.
Was he George Reeves on it, or was he Superman?
He was George Reeves.
He was. I thought he was Superman.
I thought he was Superman too.
I'll have to go back and check my research, but I'm pretty sure he was playing George Reeves because that's how he would meet Desi Arnaz.
Makes sense.
Desi brought him on there. But of course, Lucille probably didn't know any better. She probably just thought of him as Superman, because she did play the ditzy kind of housewife.
Yeah, according to to IMDb, I Love Lucy has him down as Superman in 1957. Yeah. So,
okay,
which is actually well, who knows about the year, but
I'm gonna have to pull up the video. I'm sure I can pull it up on YouTube. You can pull anything up on YouTube nowadays.
There's a lot of stuff. I went back and the first serial show. Did you guys watch any of those highlights of how they would actually show the animated Superman flying?
No, I never saw those. I just saw the serials. That's all I watched.
It was like way long before like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but they'd have animated Superman like really itty bitty.
Yeah.
Shot like a far out shot, and then you get him like running behind a rock, and all of a sudden you see him jump.
You see him like doing that little, and you'd hear that short little theme of him like.
Wait. You gotta do it. You gotta quote like George Lopez. You gotta be like dun dun dun. Because that's what everybody was. Come on, we were all
I'm
little
Caucasian.
boys.
I can't do that. Sorry.
Not every little boy, no matter what your race was, you'd run around in your little underwears like that with a towel on your neck and be like dun dun dun. That's what your parents would make the joke that you were Superman.
Yeah, but you gotta remember,
so girls could probably do it too.
You got to take the 3 steps before you can do the jump. That's how it goes. Otherwise, you can't fly.
Or you got to you got to rip the shirt.
Well, I mean, like even back in the earlier Superman days, he didn't fly. He only leaped. That's where the leap tall buildings and the Siebel Bound came from. And then eventually they gave him the power to fly.
Oh.
And Cavill's Superman actually kind of picks up on it a little bit, but we'll discuss that later.
And actually, Tom Welling does that in his show. If you guys watched Smallville, it's the longest running television show for a character, because Arrow had 8 seasons, Flash had 9 seasons, Smallville had 10. So just so you could understand that the gravity of what Superman meant to the Warner Brothers CW, that was the longest running modern era TV show for superheroes. So
now,
I mean,
guys,
no one's touched that.
Don't be confused by we're talking about TV serial, but he did do a couple movies as Superman. So, but it was more like it was more of the TV series really had more, I guess, more fame, more acclaim than the movies he did.
Now here's a tidbit and the caveat that I pulled from this when I was doing my research. The movies were between the 1951 to 53, which is what I listed.
Yes.
Now, because there is no box office data that I could find, and I mean literally, I went to every freaking aggregator site. I went to every, I even tried to scour through Warner Brothers and see if they had anything, and there was nothing.
Being the 50s, they probably had like punch card, like data card records at best, if even.
This is before they would have kept more accurate.
It might have been before data tapes, so yeah.
So I wasn't able to see any like accurate numbers, but assuming that there was information that these were shown in theaters in California, and they were like kind of in movie theaters were not what we are used to seeing today, folks. When people go to the cinema, it used to go to like a drive-in. That was more of what you would see common in the 50s than you would see an actual art house theater. Like the Chinese theater was like, that was for like major things like newsreels and things like that. So again, sadly, he's our oldest Clark Kent though, and the oldest Superman at 37.
Yeah, but I mean,
we lost him at 59.
Even take a look at this. I mean, for like the 50s, I mean, he had the divider, the little dimple in his chin, which was the so-called hero requirement back then, at least, anyways.
Yeah, he looks like Dean Cain. Not Dean Cain. He looks like Sam. From was it Supernatural?
Yeah.
Looks like if you took like
I mean, like even in the suits he wore, he wore the glasses, but he also wore the hats. And I think definitely Christopher Reeve, not Reeves, but Reeve. Kind of funny that you have George Reeves, but then ironically, I had no relation. I had a mechanical drawing teacher in high school. His name was George Reeves.
That's cool.
But he was like probably 3 times the size of this actor here. So let's just there was no possibility of being a relative, but yeah, I mean, he's for the 50s. I mean, he took that character from black and white into color, and he was the epitome of Superman, at least until the next guy.
Next one, which this one is I think for me, probably my favorite.
This is going to be similar to last week's episode, how we talked about who's the best Batman. The second one is the GOAT.
Yeah,
and it's the same case here.
And folks, I have to say it. I mean, this is without a doubt Christopher Reeves. I mean, he is in pop culture to anybody.
He is still the GOAT.
You mentioned Christopher Reeves, people will say Superman. They don't think of they know he's done other roles, and they know that he did roles even in the wheelchair.
Smallville, he appeared on Smallville a couple times.
Yes, he did.
And even everyone just like you can hear interviews of Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum and other people, and you hear meow in the background. You hear people talking like how it was just like you were in the presence of an immortal, so to speak, because even with him fighting his ailment, his paralyzing condition, and he was pushing to be there. He was like, well, he was only supposed to be there for like an hour or two, and then he was pushing to be there like 8 hours, which was apparently pissing off like his nurse and other people there. But he wanted everything to be as smooth as possible, and you hear people like even seeing him like wearing because he did have a hairpiece at that point. He's Superman. There's even in a wheelchair, he's always going to be in Superman. I watch reruns of Smallville now, and I love that they wrote the character for him, that he's the one that gives Clark all that information.
He's the GOAT. I mean, if you look at the GOAT, this is the GOAT, folks.
I mean, the hair, like that's his hair. Mm-hmm. That was like they pulled the S curl. He was like, he filled out the suit. He didn't need it. That was before there was padding, and he didn't need it. This is a guy who went to Juilliard, who was, and I shit you not, guys.
Okay, wait.
Wait,
Dave. I'm gonna pause you right here. Pull up.
You broke up there, Chief. What'd you say?
Pull up Sal's comment on the screen. All right. You missed it, Sal. You missed it. If you caught the beginning of what we were talking about, we are not leaving Tim Daly. We're not leaving Tyler Hoechlin. We have to leave them out for one reason. These are film Supermen. All the Supermen that had films.
Feature films.
Only reason, yes, feature films. Now, George Reeves actually did have serials that were shown after newsreels in movie theaters. That's why I classified George Reeves. Technically, George Reeves wouldn't have made the cut, but because Dave and I kind of looked at it, did the research, saw
it's okay, Sal. We'll let it go this time. Next time,
all right.
Next time, have a note for your mother if you're going to be late.
Exactly.
Okay?
I need to make sure that doctors know the sign.
We need a note from parents or guardian or or Archer or someone.
Exactly.
But yeah, we're only talking about live action movies because technically speaking, Tim Daly did voice in a few animated movies, but that's another.
Voiced him in the movies.
That's another argument for another day. We could always review, animated Superman. There's been several that we can always discuss that for another day. But of course, we all know there's only been one animated Batman that matters. Well, everyone else doesn't matter.
It's right. People argue that.
Kevin Conroy.
Let's talk. Okay. We're on a Superman.
Can I bring this up?
Go ahead.
I know. All right.
Well, Sal, there's a first time for everything.
We're all the same age, pretty much. You guys have me by 1 year. So you guys were born when he
game whippersnapper. Get off my lawn.
So is it because of the nostalgia that we all look at Christopher Reeves as the GOAT? Whereas like some new, let's say somebody in their 20s right now that goes back and watches, he's probably not going to be their GOAT. It's going to be Henry Cavill most likely.
You know what? I get where you're coming from with that.
I would say, okay, so if you look at the Gen Xer Superman, this is Christopher Reeves. As the Gen Xers looked at Batman as our Batman would be Keaton, and most people would probably say, Affleck, or could even go to Robert Pattinson or Christian Bale.
From 78 until the end of the 80s. I mean, he did 4 superhero movies, which was kind of unheard of back then.
They did get progressively worse, though. Let's be honest. It's not like the first one was the best, second one was good, third one was trash.
Didn't say they were all Academy Award winning movies, so shine your head a little bit there. Put some turtle wax on.
Feels good.
Aside from, very rarely did you have the same superhero appearing in more than 3 movies.
The same person playing that superhero.
Yeah,
right. This is long before MCU. So
yeah. Well.
this
the
is
only,
before
the only thing,
DCEU,
the only thing
MCU.
that even comes remotely close might be the Ninja Turtles, because even Keaton only did 2 Batman movies.
Mm-hmm.
The core of the Ninja Turtles, you did have recurring actors such as Raphael, Leonardo, and Mikey, but you did have different Donatellos being swapped out. Corey Feldman in 1 and 3, and a different Donatello in part 2. So
you also had a different Michelangelo in the suit in part 2, and
I'm referring to voice. We're talking voice actors. So
yes, but I know people in the suits also swapped out too.
Yeah. The suits were constantly being swapped out. In fact, a lot of people don't know Ernie Reyes Jr. was actually in the suit for the first movie, and then he played Keno in the second one.
And what was the name of the TV show from like 1984 that he was
Sidekicks with Gil Gerard from Buck Rogers in 25th Century, man.
I love that show.
And don't forget, he was in The Rundown. And
yes, he was.
He was in a certain movie. He was also in a certain movie we will be covering at some point in time called The Last Dragon.
Yeah, that's on the list. That's Leroy Jenkins.
No, not Leroy Jenkins.
I know. Big bad Leroy Brown. Come on, bro. Come on. I own that movie.
Leroy Green was his name. Okay, get it straight.
So, people were before we went on our tangents, which y'all used to when we talk on these things. Part of the curricula, the stats that I was looking at, you have to be a Superman for your feature film. I also looked at how many times you were that Superman, the age they chose to start you as Superman.
Yes.
So George Reeves obviously was 37 years old as Clark Kent.
Let me move us to the side so everyone can see the stats.
So right now, as it stands, currently in our tier rankings, Christopher Reeve is the youngest Clark Kent film-wise.
Yes.
Now, if you look at the television show, Tom Welling would actually be the one to take that role because Tom Welling was like 22 years old when they started doing Smallville.
Yes.
So that's just statistics, folks, if you guys want to know. Tom Welling obviously has gone on and has been on television. Yes, I know he was in Infinite Crisis. Yes, I know he was on Crisis on Infinite Earths. He was in both of the spinoffs. Yes, that doesn't have any bearing on him being Superman. Plus, he never was Superman until the final. If you really want to be nitpicking with me, folks, he wasn't Superman until the final episode of the final season where he actually donned the suit.
But I will say this: Christopher Reeve has made the most appearances in Superman live action media.
I think he's the only superhero that's ever done that. That's been the hero in a movie and has done.
He's played a different character in Smallville, of course, as we just mentioned.
Right.
Yes.
He CGI'd played a live version of Superman in the Flash movie, which
Batman
we try not to
Supergirl,
speak
as we
about.
call it. We call it Batman Supergirl.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's appeared in a lot of different media, and it's like you were saying before.
Look at the money? Can you look at the money? Look at the money that in '78, folks.
$300 million, $300.5 million in 1978.
Is that what it was?
That's what it was. That's what the movie grossed.
It was $1 billion.
It was $1 billion movie. Now, and when I looked at,
you had Marlon Brando, Gene Hackman. And another person from Superman 1 and 2 did appear in Smallville. Or should I say his voice appeared in Smallville?
Yeah, Zod.
Yep, the actor who played Zod.
And he also appears...
Terrence Stamp.
But Terrence Stamp also appears in Supergirl as well on the show. And Supergirl, the girl that played in the Supergirl movie, which a lot of people don't know of, because that took place between Superman 2 and 3.
She played Supergirl's mother in the CW Supergirl show.
And she also appeared on Smallville. And she also appeared
as Laura, as Kalos' mother.
Yeah, and she also appeared as another CW show. I can't remember what other one. But folks, this is how deep Superman's lore was entrenched.
We talking about Faye Dunaway?
Yes.
No, not
Faye Dunaway.
No, come on.
No,
Did you ever see the movie Legend of Billie Jean?
Are we trying to figure out Supergirl's name?
Yes,
the actress who played the original Supergirl
is Helen Slater.
Yes,
Helen Slater. Thank you.
No relation to Christian Slater. Thank you.
Exactly, zero relation. So this, like by many, and Vader's girl said it, her first love. I mean, action figures, folks. This was like for me as a kid growing up. This was when I would hear the music. You know, you knew it was Superman. Like you heard.
I still will listen to the soundtrack. What are you talking about, man?
Fantastic. No, the soundtrack is timeless. It's fantastic.
It's John Williams.
Exactly. Star Wars
scored everything back then. I mean, he scored everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, even years later, we're going to be talking about this with Brandon Ross. Superman Returns. They couldn't get John Williams back, but they got permission to use the original score, and they did a very, very beautiful arrangement. If you're a fan of soundtracks and instrumental scores, even Superman Returns is it's a great nostalgia. It's like revisiting. You know, it's like going to a tribute band, and the tribute band is doing just as well as the original. I mean, that's what I loved about it. I mean,
interesting way to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, well, when I was a teenager, I was big into soundtracks, musical scores. I mean,
we all were, because it was good music back then.
Not just like you pick up the Top Gun soundtrack. No, I'm talking about the instrumental scores, like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves is another good one. There's a lot of great ones. But I mean, again, no muscle suit. That's him filling out the suit. He was a classically trained actor at Juilliard. He was roommates and best friends with Kevin Conroy and Robin Williams.
That speaks volumes right there.
The fact that Superman went to college with Batman and someone who was potentially considered to be a Riddler, but it never went all the way through.
Oh, that was
Tim Burton got denied the role. Got denied the directorial role.
Williams did, yeah. I mean, just imagine those three together. And sad truth was, when Christopher Reeve had his paralyzing accidents from horse riding, Robin Williams went to the hospital dressed up as a doctor. Walked in and says, "Okay, are you? We got to shave him for the operation." That was the first time Christopher Reeve smiled or laughed since being paralyzed. And actually, after he passed away and his wife passed away, Robin Williams was kind of like a almost adopted father for their kids.
Because Vader's girl, you weren't the only one.
After Reeve passed away, his wife had cancer, and he always looked in on the family.
Wow.
So I'm a deep dive fan of both Christopher Reeve and Robin Williams. So, hearing that kind of stuff like that, it blows you away. But I mean, yeah, even Superman can, be taken back. But I mean, he was the embodiment of Superman. I know we were saying like, oh, is this because, we grew up during that time? I mean, he was Superman. Anytime you read the comics, you probably heard Christopher Reeve's voice in your head, just like when we read Batman comics, we think Kevin Conroy for the most part. Most of us do, It was he was Clark Kent. He was the perfect Clark Kent. And yeah, look at the two pictures here. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, they're not the same person because he's wearing glasses and he's combing his hair in the other direction.
Yeah, the comb over. You had to love the cowl.
But I mean, he was a perfect bumbling Clark Kent, so no one would mistake him for Superman. He was just the perfect embodiment of it. And yeah, he did it for 4 years. So yeah, Superman 3 and Superman 4, not the greatest movies. Superman 4, maybe more so. But the only saving grace for Superman 4, Gene Hackman coming back.
That was a saving grace.
With a future Lex Luthor in tow.
Yeah. So let's move on to our next one.
His nephew Lenny.
Let's get on to our next Superman, folks. And like I said, I love hearing what you guys. I love seeing this chat blow up because
we got Brandon Routh.
Now,
only played Superman once.
I have so many feelings about this, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate in the chat for it, and but I got to say it because
say it. Feel the hate. There he goes.
I don't love Brandon. I don't love Brandon Routh. I don't.
You know what?
I loved.
It's
I loved
the roles.
Exactly. This movie. Now, granted, there is a backstory for this movie, and it's supposed to be the in-between movie between 2 and 3. You know, it's supposed to be, you know, when he gave up his powers and
here. I can give
no.
Like 2 minute
before you give that 2 minutes, I just want to get this rant out because I've been waiting for this one because I've held it in and I don't love him, and I know that there's so many people that are like, let's talk about Ralph.
Dre, you never want to hold it in; it hurts.
Oh God, I know, and it's like it's killing me on the inside. He is not. He didn't talk as Superman. He didn't pull it off as Clark Kent. Yes, they had Marlon Brando. They had so many homages to Superman, but this was not a good Superman movie. Did he do good in Kingdom Come and the Crisis crossover? Yes, in 2019 he killed it. Killed it as that because I was like,
no pun intended.
But I dislike this movie, and I do not have any love for him as Superman.
Okay.
When was the last time you watched it? Out of curiosity.
I watched this literally like a week ago.
Oh wow!
Because I watch every movie. I try to watch every movie before we get on to before we do the show.
Okay.
Are we clear?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay.
I've let the bomb off.
Okay. Now, I'm going to give some criticisms in a few minutes about this movie, about my views on it. But to give you a long story short, the movie starts off with we see Martha on the farm. She's kind of playing cards, kind of having a date with a neighbor. And as he leaves, what appears to be a meteorite strikes the field. It's not. It's Clark in his ship. It's Kal-El returning to Earth in a gray on gray Superman suit. Because scientists found that there were fragments of Krypton that might have survived, and his hope was that there might have been some colonies of Kryptonians who might have survived. Maybe he was no longer alone. So he, on a five-year journey, 5-year absence from Earth, goes out there, comes back, crashes back to Earth in a ship that is very similar to his original ship, kind of star-shaped and everything. And he comes back to Earth, and of course he's weak because he was away from Earth's solar system, Earth's sun for a very long time. And he came back to Earth, and he's getting his strength back. Well, he also now has to deal with the repercussions of him being gone for so long, because even Lois Lane wrote a Pulitzer Prize-winning article, Why the World Does Not Need Superman. Lois doesn't give two shits about Superman anymore. Nobody really gives a crap about Superman. And guess what? A certain super genius villain is now out of prison because Superman wasn't there to testify at his trial. We get a very brilliantly portrayed Lex Luthor. I mean, I think this is the best Lex we've had, excluding TV, because I thought Michael Rosenbaum was awesome as Lex Luthor. At least their take of Lex Luthor being best friends with Clark Kent. But why am I blanking on his name?
Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey. I thought he played a great. It wasn't a copy of Hackman, but it was in the same vein. How Hackman was kind of evil, joke, laughable. Like he was a bit comedic about things, and I thought he played a great Lex Luthor. And yes, there was a lot of gripes about this one. The suit. Oh, he gets a smaller crest. We're going to make it look a little bit more three-dimensional.
I think that's something.
But they made it smaller.
With the C. I think they had to shrink some superness.
The belt was a little bit weird. I mean, the darker cape, I was okay with. It looked more rubbery, It almost looked like they took. It
good as a toy. It didn't translate. The merchandise did not translate well.
It looked like they took Batman's cape, practically like a rubbery kind of cape, and threw it on the old Christopher Reeve costume, and the Christopher Reeve costume kind of shrunk in the wash. That's kind of how it came off.
Dave, Todd, have you seen these? They've done overlays of the image I have here of where he's standing on Earth or in Metropolis, where he's in the middle of the big kryptonite rising up through the city.
Yes.
And people did the Batman same pose of Bale in the suit, and it almost looks like the pose is almost identical to like how Bale stood in Gotham out of the Batmobile when Gotham's going to shit.
I believe it.
If you look at the overlays, it's almost identical. And the movies are only like, what, 2 years apart?
Want to say hello to Marie T. and Telly. Thank you for popping through. The Outer Dimension, we're just discussing who is the best Superman. We recently went over George Reeves and Christopher Reeve. Now we're talking Brandon Routh. Greedo and Espeedo want to say hello. Everyone's saying hello to everyone else. Thank you for popping through. Also, coincidentally, this suit was featured in Smallville. They took wasn't the same one we see Routh in, but one of the extras, one of the prototype suits is actually what Tom Welling holds in his hand that he eventually puts on in the last, even though it's all CGI, in the very last episode when he officially becomes Superman.
Wow.
Because in the last season, there's a suit that's created by his Earth mother, Martha, and she gifts it to him, but it's taken away by Jor-El and encased in ice because he's not ready yet. So it's a whole storyline all onto itself. I mean, to me, Brandon Routh was trying to play Christopher Reeve. Like they threw in I don't want to say he's trying to, because it's more the writing than anything else. Like they threw in the lines that flying is still the most safest way to travel. They're throwing in some of the atypical lines that Christopher Reeve said in his movies, and to give it to Brandon Routh, he did as great as a job as he could have. I thought they wanted someone that kind of looked almost Reeve-like. I think that's where their idea was for. And yes, he went. And speaking of which, by the way, this Friday on the Collector Safe Space, we will have a mental health stream this week. And the reason why I bring that up is Brandon Routh went through therapy. He went through his own mental health because he was basically persecuted. He was ran through the what's the phrase I'm looking for?
Right through the coals.
I mean, he had a lot of issues. He didn't know what to do with his career because Bryan Singer, of the X-Men, was the one who directed and produced this film, and Brandon thought like, oh wow, he thinks that I'm a right fit for this. Then yeah, I'm gonna go for it. But people criticized this because the suit, the portrayal. I mean, I blame mostly the writing, not necessarily the acting, because I like him as an actor personally. I like Brandon Routh, not just because of DC Legends of Tomorrow or his portrayals in the various Arrowverse shows as Ray Palmer, aka the Atom, but he was also in a movie called Dylan Dog, which was a very fun kind of horror-esque like movie where he's a PI.
An Italian comic book, folks.
Yes.
So y'all that are nerds that really love it.
And actually, he co-stars with his Jimmy Olsen from this movie.
Mm-hmm. So
I mean, I thought he did a good job. I mean, maybe he wasn't conveying emotions as much as he should have. That's my problem with it.
He needed Reeves when he was Superman.
He felt very two-dimensional, but I gotta blame the writing on that. Just like when people rag on Star Wars movies, it's not the actor's fault necessarily.
Oh no, we can blame the writers and directors.
Oh yeah, it's going to be the writers and directors all day long, because I mean, let's face it, a sculptor, a craftsman, they will only do as well as what they're working with. If they don't have the right tools, they don't have the right media, they're not going to. You're not going to get grade A work out of them.
You can't ask a rapper to sing classical music.
You could.
My wife just said, "Why not?"
I mean, come on. Sean Combs made a hit out of some Jimmy Page music, so I'm just saying, hey, anything's possible.
Hey, listen, I'm not saying that's not
Godzilla, man. Godzilla soundtrack. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not saying that you can't turn,
come with me.
You can't turn something from shit. You can. This movie, in my personal opinion, had good. There was moments of where the visual effects were cool. Like Vader's girl.
To me, the visual effects were on point.
In the eye and exploding, like when it hits his eye, like you not taking, like he took no.
The visual effects were way better than the Batman and Supergirl movie. Okay. Yes, I am saying that.
Wait, you mean
like when you see the bullets with the Gatling gun, the bullets, you see the bullet actually hit his eye and bounce off.
That's what I'm saying. Like that to me was cool.
That was top notch. I mean, one, we never saw that before, for one, and two, that was seamless. Not like this blurry, like bad CGI from like 1995, like the reboot cartoon. You know, I mean, it's that movie that came out this past summer had like not even half the quality of the special effects they had in this movie. I mean, was every shot perfect? No, but it did a damn good job for the most part. So I mean, to me, I like this movie. I do like it. Is it the greatest? No, it's better than Superman 3 and 4 of Christopher Reeve.
Yes,
let's be honest.
I'll agree with that. Hey, Richard Pryor. No, the third one with Richard Pryor and the Cyborg, I can love. When a cyborg gets an afro in the 80s, that was freaking hilarious.
That's the one. I got to go back and watch that one. It's been a long time. It may have been like, 87 or whatever it was that came out?
Yeah.
That was because 87 was Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Okay. So that would have been around maybe 86.
It was 83. 83. It was 4 years. Yeah, go back.
Yeah, 83. Okay. But I mean, look at this. This still made $391 million. And his current age is 43. Mm-hmm. And he's 27. So he was only a year older than Christopher Reeve at the time.
Which 43. If you're trying to do the storyline of where Superman's supposed to be in his mid-20s, like Clark Kent's supposed to be in his mid-20s, and you're taking place between Superman 2 and 3 for storyline purposes. So this actually holds up really well for being a quasi-sequel reboot kind of thing. And yes, those films can be underrated, but they were so terrible.
But I will say this: for as much flack as we are all giving Brandon Routh, I think, like I said, if he had the right foundation, it could have been great. But
I think, better director.
He did get to redeem himself here. Right at the bottom, you see him playing Kingdom Come Superman, where it was on a small screen. There was a big crossover, Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they actually had to seek out different paradigms who were like, I guess they were like the keys to take on the antimatter. But he got to play Kingdom Come Superman, who was a Superman who lost his Lois, lost his Jimmy, lost everything, but he still kept moving forward. And this was years later. This is what, maybe 4 years ago, maybe 2019.
2019. Yep.
4 years ago. See, I was right. So he's 43 now. So he was 39 and still filling out the Superman suit, and he looked amazing. I mean, I would have signed up if they would have done a Kingdom Come series.
They actually made a joke. Supposedly, if there was on the Blu-ray of the Legends of Tomorrow, there's a cut where they actually said that they wanted to have him wear like inserts in the suit because he wore some to help give him like the extra little, like to make him look like an older Superman that was a little bit more fit. And he makes some jokes about like being like, he's like, oh, I wasn't even this fit when I was Superman. And there was a lot of like little jokes in the outtakes. I thought
I love what Kat's saying. I'll be his Lois.
Giggity.
That's funny.
I mean, but yeah, like that's.
But yeah, I mean, he, and that's obviously years later because he originally played, like you said, crossover 2019, 2006. We're talking 13 years later. So 13 years he waited to kind of, to get that justice, so to speak. And everyone praised him on his portrayal of the Kingdom Come Superman. I mean,
he actually got really good reviews for that. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of people praised him for it because he learned some of the mistakes. He learned how to play a little bit more. And, for like, 7 years before he was playing, he played Ray Palmer, the Atom, and he played
Palmer, right?
Yep. They played him on Legends of Tomorrow and on Arrow.
And on the Flash times.
Yes. Well, the Arrowverse, let's just say. That covers
pretty much.
all.
We'll just say that there is the Arrowverse, which no longer exists. Or actually, no, I lie.
It exists in my heart. What are you talking about?
Exactly. On a brief technicality, I will address two things. Several people have asked throughout this conversation, and I'm going to put it out there, and I want to get a thumbs up from you guys if you want it.
Yes, he did.
Do you want Dave and I to do a deep dive of the best Supermen from the television shows, which would include
Don't
Tim
you dare
Daly.
say Superboy.
No, we're not going to do the Superboy. That doesn't count.
I will take a train. I'll take a plane down to you, and I will beat you.
Hey, it's Clark Kent.
I know. Technically, there was a Clark Kent in that. So.
Hey, well, in Smallville, he was. You got Tom Welling, who is the Blur, then the red blue Blur, then he was Superman at the end.
True, but if you guys want to have us do that, I will. I'm already booking stuff for next year, and we're opening next year with an anime episode.
Tim Daly, yeah. There you go.
So that will be
Dagon
Tim Daly.
That was his Superman, but just like me, do you mean Batman? Will always be Kevin Conroy, Batman. He says.
So if you guys want, thumbs up us in the chat in the comments, and we will gladly put that episode together because I would do it. Because the movies, it was tough to weed out between the movies and the TV shows, folks.
If you guys are fans of Tim Daly and his portrayal of Superman, if you want a good laugh, go on YouTube. You can actually look him up. Him and his son has made a series of shorts. They did this during the pandemic, where it's just him. It's him as Tim Daly, but he does, he still likes to dress up as Superman every now and again and just do like everyday stuff. And it's kind of comical. They've even had Kevin Conroy make an appearance on there a few times. Like they just lost their grip of reality and were just dressing up as their hero versions. It's hilarious. Sal says, I want the animated Superman show. Well, stay tuned. You'll have to hang on until next season.
Yeah, season 2 in January. We'll start that up. So let's move on to the next, and probably the odds-on favorite for most people. And like Todd said, I don't know about that. That the new boomers are going to be saying this. He is
the millennials.
Cavill. The millennials. Thank you. Now, obviously, Cavill has had major roles as Superman. Now, the only reason I added the last one in is because in 2021 we had 2 movies that he showed up in. Now, obviously, the second movie is one that a lot of people hated, and I absolutely loved, so they can kiss my ass, because Black Adam was freaking amazing, and I loved the movie, and y'all can be mad at me for it, but he showed up in the end of that, and he was in the Justice League Snyder Cut, so that's why I counted both those movies for 2021. But his role that was the breakout role for him was not his 2013 Man of Steel, which is where the image is from.
Are you talking Mission Impossible?
He killed it in Mission Impossible. His actual highest grossing role as Superman was in the Dawn of Justice film, which by many fans is probably one of the worst films in the DCEU trilogy. Lots of people have come on our channel and have told us
Dawn of Justice. Are you talking about Batman v Superman?
Yes.
That's what. Okay.
I don't call that Dawn of Justice.
That's the title. The full title is Batman v Superman. Dawn.
I call that Martha the movie.
Martha, where's Martha? How's your mother, Martha? My mother's Martha.
Did we just become best friends?
Yes,
exactly.
It's the DCEU version of Step Brothers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're gonna be best friends.
They hate each other's guts at first, but then they join forces because why? Because a hot chick shows up. Wonder Woman.
I mean,
is she with you? No, I thought she was with you.
Exactly. So let's go through the brief roles of Superman for Cavill, because I will say this: I loved Man of Steel. Obviously, Man of Steel for me is a more personal tie to it, because that was the year I lost my mother. So I got to go see that movie in theaters before she passed with her, and I enjoyed that movie a lot. It was one of those, like, my mom was a big superhero. She loved Christopher Reeves, and I found a way to get her a copy so we could watch it in the hospital. I shouldn't say go to the theaters. We watched it in the hospital theater that they had, and we watched it, and she loved it. And she said that the guy didn't look like Christopher Reeves, but he carried himself as Clark would. And you have Kevin Costner as John Kent. I mean, he did a fantastic job.
That's heartbreaking.
And that's what my mom said broke her when she watched the film, and it got me too. When you have the power to go save your father, but you're going to release
and
what
he puts his hand up. No,
and that broke me. Hands down. Woo.
Man of Steel. It was a complete reinventing because we saw so much of Krypton. Like we saw animal creatures that ferried you from place to place. We didn't see any of the crystalline technology. They rebooted the science of Krypton, and I mean, come on, my brain is not working today, guys. I'm sorry, a little under weather. What's his name that played Jor-El?
Oh God,
Crow.
Yeah, Russell Crowe. Friggin' killed it as
loved him.
We know that Kal-El's father was a scientist, but Russell Crowe's kind of he's badass. He's kicking ass left and right.
He was a militant. He had
armor.
Rebel, so was his wife. Yeah,
I mean, he had different armor and stuff. I mean, this was a complete. Thank you. Man of Steel did one thing that they finally did right for friggin' Superman movies. Okay, both his parents had dark hair color. It makes sense. In previous iterations, we had in Smallville. One of my biggest gripes is both his parents had blonde hair.
That's funny.
Where the hell did he get the dark hair from? Come on. I mean, that's something that they've done in previous iterations of Superman movies and TV shows. It didn't make any sense. In this one, it did.
And also Man of Steel led into something, and I love what Dave said, which it covers a great concept of Krypton, which we eventually then get Sci-Fi 2 years later, which did 2 seasons and sadly canceled it.
Great show.
Krypton, which you
can still watch that on the CW website or the CW app. You can still watch Krypton.
And that show was fantastic because it gave you Lobo. It gave you a deep dive into the lore of what Krypton was before the fall and
of Zod's family.
Basically the House of El.
The House of El before Jor-El is even really born.
Exactly.
I mean, it was a nice deep dive, and it, if you guys are big Superman fans or big DC fans, you want something that gives you little Easter eggs. That's the thing to go for. But going back to this, I mean, Batman v Superman wasn't the greatest one in my book. It was just a hot mess. Man of Steel was great. I would have loved to see more with Cavill because I could appreciate Cavill's Superman, maybe not as Clark Kent, because honestly, his Clark Kent kind of came off. I don't want to say emo, but he, I mean, like him as a kid, he came off very petulant. And what does he do? He leaves home. He's going around the world because he wants to find things out about himself, what he's really meant to do. Even as Clark Kent, he's not a bumbling Clark Kent. Mm-mm. He fills his clothes out pretty well. Okay, this is not someone that we see tripping over himself. Right. I mean, this is
something that's he's intimidating. I love when he when Lex Luthor
when he meets Bruce Wayne,
intimidate him. Yeah, and
when he meets Bruce Wayne, and don't get me started on that supposed Lex Luthor.
Oh, I like that. I like
his little ADHD OCD version of Lex Luthor.
Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't on it.
Now you see me fame.
It was different.
See, yeah, okay. Let's take this apart.
Cat, we know you will. You will trip over all the Supermen that we're discussing. We know this.
Momoa. She already was like, "Oh, Aquaman." I'm like, Jesus Christ. Okay, he's walking around a movie, half fucking wet and with no shirt for the whole movie. Of course.
Thank you, Code. I completely agree with you on that.
Pants. Come on, we all know. Where were you? Okay, they look good.
I think Code is covering it right there. DCEU version of Superman was too mopey and grumpy. Okay. He was for the most part.
All right, so let's. I want to attack some things that were said. Jesse Eisenberg,
yes,
did not pull Lex Luthor the way I wanted Lex Luthor to be.
No.
I felt like it was almost the way he did that maniacal laughter when he was on the rooftop was like trying to pull a Joker Lex Luthor, which does not make sense. There are two different iconic villains.
He was giving me Cletus Cassidy vibes, honestly.
Not even. Woody Harrelson killed that, and that's another deep dive for a totally different character.
Oh, yeah, he killed the character, all right.
Exactly, literally. Now, when you break apart that this is the Snyder verse Superman, this Superman was intended from before to be the franchise carrier for the whole DCEU.
Yeah.
Now, that's the idea was this Superman was supposed to be a Superman that was a more human Superman. That's why his planet, and they gave us the deep dive into Krypton because they wanted us to have that connection to his home world, and that he's longing for that connection he doesn't have to his home world because it's gone and all he has is these holograms. And then what he does have on Earth, he can't connect 100% fully because he's not a human. So he's trying to, like, when he goes on that, like, kind of as they call it, a Rumspringa for the Amish people when they actually go out into the world.
I thought you were trying to say Rump Shaker for a second.
Not Rump Shaker. No, that's a different song. That's a whole different thing. And I know Todd would get a kick out of it because my man loves his hip hop.
Kat's listening to that song right now as she thinks about the Superman.
Pretty much. But when he goes on, like, kind of like, it's similar to how Batman Begins, where you get Bale going on this, quest to see what kind of figure himself out, who he is. And it's I like that Affleck was a lot different. They took Affleck and made his Batman more of a seasoned villain. I don't want to say villain, a seasoned crime fighter that has seen the worst of the world and witnessed what happened in Man of Steel and did not want that to happen again. So he wasn't like, and a lot of people used to like to throw the term that he was racist because he didn't want to have the aliens on this planet, and it wasn't that at all.
Well, no, it definitely
Gotham.
wasn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was trying to protect Gotham.
I mean,
his idea was to do that. You have to go against the law. And he did kill people because people were like, "Oh yeah, you see him in 2016. He was breaking necks and cashing checks." And I'm like, "Yeah, he was totally. Yeah. That's what my man did."
Well, no. I mean, as far as Superman breaking a neck, he only broke one neck.
No,
and that
was
Superman.
Zod. That was Zod. And I'm talking about Batman. Batman broke.
Well, as far as Batman was always on mission. He was always supposed to be on mission. But then after seeing the carnage that the Kryptonians delivered, I mean, anyone, whether you're a hero or not, you see that these aliens come to Earth. You're like, oh, you always hope for the friendly aliens to come, but then these overpowered ones. You see another alien, you're going to do whatever you have to take them out. That's just human nature right there. Let's be honest. And the one person.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, because I was going to say the one thing Cavill brought to the role that I loved, besides us getting all the other stuff that Snyder gave us, it was the first time we've ever had an identification for what his emblem on his chest meant.
Could have been hope.
That to me blew, like, Batman's insignia is to strike fear in the hearts of his enemies. Mm-hmm. Superman is the antithesis of that. He's like Captain America. He is like, I am the embodiment of good. And for him to say, like, what does that S on your chest mean? He's like, oh, it's Kryptonian for hope. And
well, in the past, they've only ever described it as the crest of the House of El, like in Smallville. They asked, what the symbol was, because originally it was the outline of the crest with an 8. That was the original symbol for the House of El. And then originally, he started doing the S symbol because he was given a small crystal with that emblem on it, which is meant to be the house, like a more updated version of the House of El crest. And that's where they kind of took a lot of it from. And even in the comics, I remember that they started introducing the, I don't want to call it hieroglyphics, but the glyph type language,
the Kryptonian language
from Smallville was adapted into the comics and then carried forward. But yeah, this was the first time we had that, what does that S mean? And no, it means hope. That's what it means where I come from. I mean, we look at the Smallville one. Oh, why is there an 8 burnt on your chest? Well, that's not an 8. That's the House of El. It's different different interpretations of it. But when I mentioned earlier is something that it pays homage to all the Supermen or the original Superman origins. When Clark goes, he doesn't find a fortress, but he finds a ship. And on that ship, he gets his suits, and then he is listening to the hologram of Jor-El, and he decides that he's going to start learning to use his abilities. He doesn't fly at first. He can feel like he can manipulate gravity a little bit, and he pushes off. He does a few leaps. He doesn't fly at first, like he has to leap tall buildings, so to speak, in the Arctic. And then eventually, after like 3 or 4 failed attempts, he finally keeps on flying after those leaps. And I love that they did that in that.
It's almost like the Hulk in the MCU when he did his jumps. They kind of almost mimicked that level of
you said, this was a Batman Begins. Mm-hmm. It was, even Batman Begins was a darker Batman than we've seen ever before. Christian Bale, at one point before he goes on his journey, actually has a gun in his hand and is ready to kill the killer of his parents.
Yeah, he's ready to kill Joe Chill.
Again, Cavill played a darker Superman, but I didn't feel that the balance between him and Clark Kent was there. I didn't feel that there was a balance there.
What are you thinking? What are you thinking? I see the light bulb going off. What are you thinking?
Oh, there's a lot I'm learning a lot right now too. So, but I do like the darker Superman. Ahead. I know that
I do too.
I know that Cavill's not. Yeah, Cavill wants to be more of the Christopher Reeve Batman, or Superman, but I don't know. I do like the darker one. I've just got done watching that whole DCEU. I mean, I'm on Peacemaker series now, so this is all fresh for me. But I dig it. I like the darkness. I get, like when he comes back to life, he's confused. Then Lois
we know what side you like of him.
But
yeah, coming out of the tomb, like you said,
it's a great different take.
In Snyder Cut, when he's like, "Hey, I remember. Do you bleed?" And it was like when he grabbed Batman, and Batman.
Yeah. That was a great. Scene.
I'm gonna tell you now, if Affleck didn't shit himself, if that was like an actual shit your pants moment.
Affleck was thinking I should have wore the brown pants today.
Exactly, you should have wore the brown pants. But so Todd, what do you say? You said you're learning something. What are you learning? Which is what I'm interested in hearing.
Just like the background of the like just mentioned the hope. Because I've been curious about that. I haven't gone back and looked up. What was that in the comics, or was it? No,
that was for the movie.
To a degree.
It was for the movie.
The 8 spot.
Yeah, that was the thing they did for the movie. But I mean,
that was only the movie.
Now another thing that was never fully explored was the ship because if you watch Man of Steel, in the ship that Clark is investigating in the Arctic, and that's also where he first meets his Lois, and he saves her. And he uses his heat vision on her, believe it or not, to cauterize her wounds for anyone who hasn't seen it. I mean, like usually you see, and he has control over his heat vision. I mean, that kind of control, but he doesn't have control over his, his flying or anything else yet.
Well, that was kind of like a nod to Smallville because Smallville had just finished, I think, the year before.
And Tom Welling did similar things where he was able to control his heat vision to cut like tracking chips out of Chloe's shoulder. I remember that one.
So Todd, if you didn't know, like Smallville finishes, it did its 10-year run.
Like a year before or something.
So I think in 2012, 2011, it finished, the show finished its run, and then Man of Steel came out. So I think if just extrapolating, if you're trying to like mimic Clark learning and you're transitioning into the suit, it would be good, like Dave said, like, you may have control over some aspects of your powers, but there's not all. And then there is the comics where there was the Superman, the Superman from Earth 2, who is the prime Superman, the one that nobody can kill because he is literally a freaking god. He has powers where he can't control it, but he cries when he's killing the Teen Titans. Like he's smashing skulls because he's so strong, but he doesn't know how to hold back.
Gotcha.
So I feel like they're trying to give us a meld of like Superman's so strong, he knows he could punch you through a freaking wall and kill you dead. But he doesn't do that. He restrains himself.
Well, we can talk about that in a few more seconds. Because, I mean, we're talking about his movies. I mean, I also noticed you don't include Justice League in that.
I do. So 2013. Okay. So 2013 was Man of Steel.
Well, I'm talking about the box office numbers that you give us there.
Okay. So when I did the box office numbers, Dawn of Justice made more money than Justice League by literally $106 million. So the fact that I looked at which grossed more money was Dawn of Justice, and that was more of a focus on the Trinity, because we ended up, we get Gal Gadot, we get the Trinity of heroes.
Yeah, because there's a reason why I want to bring that up. But I want to bring up one other point very quickly. This is where I was originally going with when I was talking about the ship and everything. Mm-hmm. In the ship, when he gets his suit, there's also, you can see that there were cryogenic, like, sleep chambers.
Mm-hmm.
But, he sees that there's skeletons in some of them. But there's one that was opened up. But we never find out who or what was inside that. Okay? Which a lot of people always thought that would be how they would explain Supergirl, but they never did that.
Oh.
Yeah, that was, I did read that somewhere.
But then, of course, with the Batman and Supergirl movie, it was more of her ship arrived on Earth, but we don't know what kind of ship she arrived in, if it was something identical to what he arrived in and whatnot. We never find those details. But that was always the hope that we would get, that's how they would bring in Supergirl. But eventually they just, I don't know what DC did. They just lost the wheel and crashed and went all over the road, unfortunately.
Well, there was somebody brought up a good point. I think it was Code brought up a good point where he was saying that for some reason after Justice League, we get a lull of Superman interest and we get a rise in the Shazam, Suicide Squad, and it felt more of a Batman focused characters. And like Shazam, where we did see Cavill, well, a person dressed as Cavill, as Superman at the end of Shazam, neck down. Yeah, from the neck down, showed up. Mm-hmm. And there was rumors. So what Cavill, so just to answer that rumor, when we got Shazam, the very first one, Cavill was out of negotiations with DC because he had gone to start filming The Witcher for Netflix. So when he was doing that, he wasn't able to show up for that. And also at the same time, he was working on Mission Impossible. So we had Mission Impossible, then we had The Witcher, and then he left the franchise. That's when also DC sadly had the issues with Affleck falling back into substance abuse and depression, and he lost his role, and that kind of iced a lot of the Trinity, because you got to realize when any true comic book fan says Trinity, you're talking Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman. And when you lost all three of those, and you had 84 come out, and Wonder Woman 84 was terrible as a movie, and a lot of people...
We don't speak about 84.
Except for the fact that, you have the Mandalorian in there, and he couldn't save that movie, so for shit's sake.
Oh, he was just a weird hippy-dippy kind of character in that one. But
just a bad movie in and of itself. But I agree that if Cavill, this version of a darker Superman for me, when he wore the Kryptonian armor, because I loved that they gave us the black with the silver, because that's his Kryptonian armor. I wanted that Superman to stay around. And,
we saw that suit very briefly in Man of Steel, in the dreamscape with him and Zod, which is badass.
I love that. That was like great check. Like they checked the boxes for me as a comic book fan. But again, the DCEU is now starting to do that because of Blue Beetle and what they're going forward with. Suicide Squad kind of did it, and Peacemaker does it, and again, those are TV shows. I'm not going to get into the movies and the TV shows for that, because Dave and I do have a DCEU.
Peacemaker's a damn good TV show, though.
And it's a damn good show.
I'm having a blast watching it.
Yeah. But, so let me ask you, Todd, before we go a little further, because I feel like it's an interesting thing for somebody that's like, from our conversation the other night, because a lot of y'all don't know, me and Todd we had a great conversation the other day.
Yeah.
And one of the things I gleaned is he's not like super geeky or nerdy. He likes what he likes.
I like what I like.
So for you, that's like not deep into this lore like myself and Dave are.
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel hearing about it? Does it like it? And I know your level of what your background, your career background makes you more interested to want to learn more. But like, do you have that natural interest? Like, ooh, I like this stuff already. I want to know more. Or what does it do for you?
Well, that's exactly like what I've been doing was that I'll go in my binges. I'll focus on stuff for a while. You know, I'm always been Star Wars, hardcore Star Wars. But then I was so far behind on the MCU. It wasn't until Endgame came out that I finally went and started watching everything. So I went on a nice run of about watching everything for about a year. Now I'm on to that with the DCEU. So trying to get all caught up. I still haven't seen Shazam, and either one of them. But I've been trying to keep it to the Trinity, and it's been a lot of fun. And especially watching YouTube shows out there, like some of the bigger ones, Den of Nerds, he can be slanted, can go negative, and then you get like Eric Voss and all those guys over at the other one I can't think of at the moment, but they're always a little bit over the top, too positive. You want to get that nice little balance, but you hear a lot of there's so many haters out there, especially when it comes to the DCEU. Mm-hmm. And or even Star Wars now, Marvel, they all have their haters and their moments, but it's
like
fun,
a true Star Wars fan, he wants balance.
And that's what it is.
Back.
It's entertainment. Right, I do. I'm a great Jedi.
Facts.
And I totally understand it. I totally understand the criticisms, but yet we're so spoiled. We are as people that love this stuff. The geek community and the collecting community, but then people are like, if we're not being critical, we're not going to get better. I'm like, it's so hard to balance, but I love it. I love all of it. It's fun to see the different versions of people playing the different characters throughout time. Like the Tim Burton's, Batman's compared to the Zack Snyder verse. Or even the Arrowverse. It's all completely their own little things, and it's just like it would be if you're reading a comic. You're reading a comic book. It's just a different artist and writer's take, and I think it's awesome. And that's why it's like I'm having a blast, especially now. I had no clue that Peacemaker is going to be as funny and messed up. It's like I love The Boys. And it's like watching a new version of The Boys to a degree, just not as raw. But yeah, I love it.
I mean,
it's
Peacemaker
good.
Was a character.
And now that knowing where DC is now. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was going to say Peacemaker was a character I absolutely hated in the Suicide Squad movie. And like they did this TV show and like, I'm like, I freaking love Peacemaker now. Like they kind of 180'd the character. Right. They kind of redeemed him. And it's like someone you love that he's just this idiot, but he's an idiot who's doing good things. It's like
Punisher could be lovable if you can give Punisher a hug. Cena does it.
No,
and Cena does a great job. I'm gonna give it his due. Cena
I have to say John Cena's friggin' hilarious. But yeah, I mean that's the good thing. It's like when you like. I'm hoping that James Gunn can continue with everything with him being the head of DC. I'm hoping he can bring that kind of levity and, like you said, bring balance back. Because, with respect, it's a lot like the Star Wars, the sequel trilogy. It's like, oh, this person's making this movie. This person's making this movie. No one's having meetings together about any kind of continuity or anything that's going to make sense or what is the overall arc going to be after these episodes. We don't get any of that. And I think that's one of the big problems with the DCEU or whatever iteration it's going to be in the future. I know that they brought back Gal Gadot. Gal's brought back to do Wonder Woman again. I don't know who's going to be directing or writing. But he signed her back. It's going to be interesting to see what is James Gunn Wonder Woman going to be like. It's going to be interesting to see what is his Superman going to be like.
Well, I will state this, and it's sad that I'm going to say this, and it kind of ties into what Dave's saying and what Todd's saying. Right now, James Gunn's under the gun, no pun intended, because Blue Beetle is being pulled from 500 theaters this week. You will no longer be able to see it in 500
really?
American.
I missed that.
Yes, it is. There was an article. Collider just put the article out yesterday, and I read it late yesterday. If you guys go to Collider's website, you can read it. It's aggravating. It was on Instagram, on Collider's Instagram, and then I went to the website and I read it. So apparently, because they said in these theaters, now I'm assuming it's underperforming in specific theaters. That's why it's being pulled, because on the that's what I'm assuming. Because when my wife and my kids and I saw it, we saw it on the National Cinema Day, and like I told Dave, we had a fun time, and it was the #1 movie everybody went to go see on National Cinema Day for $4.
Right.
So how is it that that's underperforming, but it's got like an 81% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I know Rotten Tomatoes is under the gun now because there was a company that supposedly was buying their.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that one, because they really can't do interviews with the SAG strike.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
SAG-AFTRA, I think that is what is the issue. And they're kind of like, well, if we can't do the proper promoting, maybe they should be supposedly cutting their losses. There's nothing against the movie, that they should be cutting their losses, because if they can't properly promote a movie, how are they going to entice people to go to the movie?
Here's how. Toys. Because I bought it and I love it.
Well, I mean, think about it. It used to be years ago, word of mouth. Like we've only seen trailers very sparingly. Let's be honest.
It's true.
I mean, if they were pushing trailers months ago, we could get amped up, but unfortunately they have not done that. And this movie was also made before James Gunn came into power, but the public doesn't really know that. So they're going to try and blame it on him. But I mean, James Gunn, we're not going to see any of his work for another 1.5 to 2 years at best.
Hey, so let's not even get into that. So I just love hearing from Todd the level of interest risen, and the fact that somebody's actually watching these like for a first time. Because to me, me and Dave are diehards. Like, you go see these things day one, maybe a week after, because the Jones, I get that Jones. I can't wait. Well, and it's just cool to hear it from a casual fan. And I don't want. And I hope you take no offense as me calling you that. I think that that's what even you yourself you would.
Are you calling him a newbie? No, I'm kidding.
No, I'd call him a filthy casual.
No, especially with DC. I'm a like first day showing for Star Wars and Marvel. Not necessarily for DC though. It really depends.
Well, but they've also not left a lot of good taste in your mouth.
The Batman, the Pattinson Batman, I was there that first night. I love that one.
Oh, and coincidentally, the Batman is now on Amazon Prime Video. So if you have Prime Video membership, you can watch that for free right now.
Nice.
I just found that out today. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I mean, honestly, hearing you say that, not necessarily being first in line to go see a DC movie, I can understand and completely appreciate the hell out of that, because the thing is, it's usually like, oh, there's a DC movie. Oh, there might be interest in it for like a year or so, and then we know it's going to be rebooted or kind of like it's off the shelf for a number of years. Hey, what's up? What's going on, Gap? Thanks for stopping through. But I mean, that's the sad truth about DC. We know they may have a couple movies go for like 3 or 4 years at best.
Hey, am I getting Marvel? Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, we hear you.
We hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Marvel has kept interest 24/7, 365 consecutively. And that's the thing, though. Marvel has been able to keep and pique everyone's interest, whereas DC is not. Looks like Todd may be having some connection issues, even though we were able to see him. Yep, he dropped out. He'll be popping back in, I imagine, in a few seconds. I mean, that's the sad truth of it all, is DC has not been consistent. Now, Cavill's Superman, I did enjoy, and I would have loved to have seen more happen. I would have loved to have seen that universe get built up with him and Affleck's Bruce Wayne, his Batman, to actually see them build the Justice League. Like with Blue Beetle, obviously they would have brought in Booster Gold, and we have Todd swirling around. We can hear you. We can see you.
At least it's not me this time. At least it's not me this time.
we can see and hear you. Can you hear us? No.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Me?
Yes, we can see you. What I was saying before was
that was definitely me.
What I was saying before was we can definitely understand.
You guys are breaking up. I'm pretty sure it's my internet at the moment.
Okay.
But
what we were saying was, go ahead.
Am I going to throw you guys off via? Are you there?
We can hear you.
We hear you.
Should probably just hop off.
We hear you.
All right, if you can hear me, I'm going to just hop off because it's not working good. But thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, not a problem.
I will talk.
You'll be welcome back.
Yes, sir.
Great work,
dude. Thank you so much. I'll hit you up. I'll hit you up after the stream. And we probably lost him.
He's just frozen in the ether. But that's what we were saying is DC, unfortunately, it keeps you interested for a short while and then it kind of fizzles out and they try to reboot it every couple of years. It's almost like Spider-Man was for a good minute.
Hulk.
For the
Spider-Man.
MCU. Yeah, Hulk, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four.
Oh, God. That's one we need to do as well.
Yeah. I mean,
the Fox MCU.
It's a sad truth that unfortunately, hopefully with James Gunn, maybe he can finally get some consistency going on there. I mean, that's the hope. Is it going to happen? Personally, I would love to see, and this is my dream hope, and you guys can bag on me if you want. I would love to see Snyder and Gunn team up.
That would be like a cool,
like a permanent filmmaking partnership, because you could have Snyder do 1 or 2 movies and Gunn do a few. Have them go back and forth. I think they would be a fantastic partnership moving forward, because Snyder has made so many great movies. I mean, he was the original for Justice League. Like, he had a death in his family, which is what caused him to step out.
And then Whedon stepped in.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much. I mean, that's the thing, though. I mean, Cavill is a good actor. We know that from Mission Impossible, Man from U.N.C.L.E. I mean, in the Witcher series, and sadly, he's, because of Warner Brothers, he's not going to be a part of that anymore because
he's doing Warhammer, and we are getting a Warhammer series from him.
Yes, he's doing Warhammer.
Active Warhammer fan.
He was already beloved for doing Geralt of Rivia. I mean, he was doing a fantastic job. He said, "Hey, Netflix, I'm going to be removing myself from the show. Warner Brothers wants me back for Superman," and he cut all ties. And then Warner Brothers a month later, like, "Oh, by the way, that deal we said, yeah, it's not happening now." So
then that's also happening with The Rock too right now. Just to give you the heads up, The Rock's also going through that too with Black Adam, because James Gunn said he didn't dislike the role, for that, but then at the same time, The Rock's like, y'all didn't support me, and this was money out of The Rock paid for everything from his pocket, which he has the money to do that.
Want to welcome Cobain to the chat. Thank you for coming through,
Aaron.
Hey, Aaron. Aaron's a good friend of the channel for both of us, and thoughts go out to you, my man. I know we talked earlier today. Just hope everything's going. Hope things get better. We'll talk to you later. Gap. I'm having trouble focusing my eyes too much. No worries, man. I misspell and misspeak all the time. Yes. Henry Cavill and his fans they did, but you know what? He's one of us. He's a nerd. He's a gamer. He's a PC builder. Girls like Kat will drool and just watch Henry Cavill building a computer, a PC from scratch in a muscle shirt, and they just thirst over it. Kat, we know you watch those videos. Be honest, it's okay. But I mean, he's one of us. He's a nerd. That's why Dre mentioned about him going to Warhammer, which is going to be very interesting. I mean, I played Warhammer on I think it was on PlayStation actually. Played it for a quick minute. It's definitely seemed like a very interesting world, kind of like Destiny meets Gears of War kind of vibe to it. Meets Halo almost, like a combination of the three. So I'm definitely going to be looking forward to that. Code says, to be honest, I'm a fan of all 4 Superman actors that you covered in this video. I mean, yeah, I mean, take a look at it. I mean, we got George Reeves, the classic, the one who laid the foundation, so to speak. Christopher Reeve, our MVP, our GOAT. I mean, he's the core. And let's face it, Brandon Routh and Cavill, they all took elements of Reeve into their portrayal. As far as, the hope that Christopher Reeve carried and imbued as Superman, that's what Cavill was doing. He was conveying that hope.
And I think that's what bled through for me. Like I said, it was one of the last movies that I feel like I really enjoyed. I wish my mom could have seen all the other ones because she was a big kind of superhero fan.
Okay.
I would have loved for her to have seen them all. But the fact that was like a good, if that's like what you have to leave off on and seeing, I think Man of Steel was a good movie. I know a lot of people hate on it and they felt that it was not what they wanted, but I think it's what we needed. And I know that there was the trilogy that was planned it was the Man of Steel, then it was going to be like Amazing Superman or something like that. They were all themed to the comic book titles.
Yeah.
Like it was Man of Steel, the Adventures of Superman, and there was going to be like a third one.
In the future, we can always discuss. We can always see if we can plan out an episode for next year, because I've seen all the animated Superman movies that came out from that basically came after Justice League. And when I say Justice League, I'm talking about the cartoon Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. That began with Tim Daly. There's a whole host of Superman movies, and some of those, I mean, there's one movie where Superman actually lets loose.
Yep, that was based on the Mark Silvestri run where the Apocalypse basically
there was that, but there's another one. There's a dark one.
That's the one. That is the one where Supergirl gets beat up, and when she almost dies.
That's not the one I'm talking about. I'm talking about some other ones.
All right, which other? Well, what's the title? Because
I'm trying to remember. Because there was one against. There was a group of metas that he had to take on.
The Five. It was like Superman versus the Five.
Yes, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Where he went a little dark on them. There's that.
Yeah.
There's a few other ones. There's definitely some good portrayals of Superman that give you the hope, and that's always the Elite. That's the one code.
Yes, the Elite. Thank you. Superman versus the Elite. I've seen that one. That was good.
That's a very good one because he kind of has to go a little dark to take them on, and it's just there's a lot of stuff. But as far as the live action, I mean, to me, it's always going to be Christopher Reeve. I mean, Cavill, I'll say comes. I'm going to say he comes pretty close. I'm going to say it probably goes Reeve, Cavill, Routh. I'm going to say Routh, and I know you're going to hate me for this, and then I'll say Reeves, George Reeves at the end.
All right. So for me, if we base it just on the films, Reeves, Christopher Reeve, hands down. I'm going to probably say number 2 will be for me, obviously Cavill. I have more of a personal tie to that. For his Superman. I would say George Reeves and then Ralph. But again, I did get a text from Todd, just to give you guys a heads up. Todd requested that I throw a shout out from him to Nicolas Cage. So I'm going to shout him out for the movie that never was, called Superman Lives.
Yep.
And we just had talked about it backstage, Dave, myself, and Todd, about how Muschietti had said that he went to Nicolas Cage, got him in the suit that he was supposed to wear. They designed the suit. They did everything they could for it. And then they filmed just those scenes for the what would have been the now defunct Superman Lives movie. I do love this miniseries. I feel like yes, there was. I knew the Kirk Allen. I didn't cover him because he was specifically for the serials. He did the serialization that were just meant for television or for radio. So I didn't. That's why I didn't.
Which is
him.
Another reason why we didn't cover. I know someone earlier asked about Dean Cain because we explained that this is just those who appeared in feature films, live action feature films. That's why we only included Cavill, Ralph, Reeve, and Reeves.
Yes.
So that's why we only included them.
Yeah, and but he didn't play. See, that's where that's where Dave and I had to dance that line. Feature film, solo film, because he was in a scene in the Flash that does not count. That's like saying Aquaman.
That's really like an expanded Easter egg.
Exactly. Yeah, that's like us saying like, hey, we're gonna give Batman. Batman was in the Suicide Squad movie. Well, he was, but he wasn't a main character. He was in 2 scenes and an after credit scene. That doesn't make him the full length. I wouldn't give Batman a credit for that movie. That's like giving credit to certain actors, where they fall. So that's where we had to. And it's not like I'm trying to be a dick and nitpick, but that's how we had to nitpick it for us. Or it'd be like a 4-hour long stream.
I mean, that would be like if we did Professor X, even though he appeared in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, but it's kind of a small part.
Exactly.
So it has to be
very good comparison.
It has to be featured because he has to be a feature actor, not just someone who shows up only for like 2 or 3 or even 5 minutes. It has to be someone who is a feature in the storyline. Now, if we were talking Supergirls, we could talk Sasha Cal. Or we can talk Helen Slater, and we can make those references, but we wouldn't include Helen Slater in the Flash movie. We would exclude her because that's really an Easter egg cameo. She's not a feature role in that, but Sasha is. So
yes. So well, now let's kind of, like I said, we can't really wrap this up in a negative way because everybody's entitled their opinions on who the Superman is. And like when we posted this on Facebook, several people were like throwing gifs up of like the TV Superman, and because there's such a widespread interest, our second episode in season 2 will be a best of Superman television, which will include Tim Daly for voice acting. And because we're doing that, I'll make a mini series with Batman. So we'll get a best of Batman animated, and that's going to include some very obscure references. So y'all are going to Kevin Conroy, Bruce Greenwood, Jensen Ackles. There's a whole bunch. I can go down the list of actors that have all voiced the Batman.
Now, did you ever watch? What was this show? I'm blanking on. I can't believe I'm blanking on. It's a DC show that was on Max.
Titans.
Not Titans, the other one.
Doom Patrol. I love Doom Patrol.
Okay, the actor who played the pilot that wears the bandages.
Yes.
He actually voiced Superman once.
Yes, he did.
So I mean that's something we can consider. We can do like a who.
Well,
who
currently
do we think?
Jerry O'Connell is the current voice
DC
actor.
Animated, yes.
For DC Animated, Jerry O'Connell is the current voice of Superman.
And is that the first superhero he played?
It's not. But
My Secret Identity.
Oh God, and Sliders. So
well, that's not really a superhero. You just jump from dimension to dimension.
That's true.
Oh wait, that's me.
Hoping to slide home. So
it's an interdimensional quantum leap.
So again, I love that you guys are been so active. This is the one good thing that we love about our channel is that we love that you guys get very active in the chat and very much love to post your opinions. And because of that, it really does inspire us to look at the episodes like that we're looking forward to doing. So going into next week, and it's going to be another series. So we leave one series into a new series. So this series that we're going to be doing is obviously it's starting 2 days before officially.
Almost like one door closes, another one opens.
Exactly. One portal opens, another one opens. You know how it is. So the new series we're going to be covering for the next month, 2 days earlier, is going to be Hispanic Heritage Month. This is something near and dear to my heart, obviously, because I am Hispanic, but there are several films Dave and I have seen across these that we grew up with that I think are iconic films. And when I looked them up, they were listed in like the top 20 for Hispanic heritage, like that you should see. So we broke it down. It's going to be 3 different tiers, possibly 4. We're going to do classic movies. We're going to do animated films, and then we're going to do action films. Oh no, sorry, horror films. Then if we have enough time in the month, because I think there's like a week in there, there's an extra week in there, we will do comedies. And then we're going to go right into horror for Halloween. And the Halloween stuff I've already started, and the Halloween stuff's going to be fun. Dave and I, like I said, Dave and I planned it out. It's going to be kick ass. And I'm not jumping ahead, but look forward to what we're doing for Hispanic Heritage. Mr. Wonderful, it's my dude right here. Thank you. This is my boy Travis. He is the guy who is creator of the Hex Stacks, and my guy, you guys got to check him out. But yes, this is the plan that we're doing. We have our Hispanic Heritage Month videos, and then October is our Halloween themes, and then right after we finish that, we're going to have 2 shows in the first week of November, and we're going to hold off on that till October to go into more detail for that. But I do want to cover something that Dave mentioned in here that was very, very prominent, and it was kind of a theme we covered, which is mental health. Brandon Routh is not the first actor to ever experience this for taking on a role, and won't be the last. And we are talking this Friday on the Collector Safe Space. We're going to do our first of a monthly mental health kind of roundtable. This is something that has been done before, but previous people have decided to not want to partake in doing it. So Dave and I realized that our friendship, our brotherhood, that he and I have gotten so close is because we met in the first one. So we're doing it again. And thank you, Kat. It was awesome to have you. Stay feeling good, girl. We are going to be doing the mental health panel. We have 5 people that are going to be on the panel besides it's going to be me and Dave. We have EC Collecting Colin, John Joker, JJ is going to be coming through, Duffman will be coming through, and we have a 5th slot, but I'm not going to divulge, or the 6th slot. I'm not going to divulge who that is yet because it's a scheduling issue and they might show up. So
no, it's not Brandon Rouse. I'm sorry, guys. No,
it would be cool if it was, but it'll be one of the members of Nerd Affiliated has wanted to step in.
We are hoping that all of you guys will join us, or at least join us on the replays of it.
And it's going to be from 7 p.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern time. Why did we cut it short to an hour? Usually these things could run almost 2 hours. We did not want to interfere with our boy Colbane Games. Aaron is actually being a real big sport about it because he wants to come in and support it, and he's bringing his community to it. So we would love for you guys to come. And it's not the typical stream, folks. This is not us talking about toys, us talking about pop culture. This is us really talking about mental health and how we cope with it, how we have met each other through this. Colin, myself, and Dave all met through our very first one. And sadly, we're the last 3 of their standing from that group. Not in a negative way of like that we're still friends and we are actively doing this. So this is our plan. This is what we're going to do. And I really hope you guys come through. If you don't, you can catch us on the replay. But it will be on the Collector Safe Space. We're going to be using everybody having a chance to put it on their platforms. So if you want to stream it out when you come on, you guys can.
Yep.
And if you choose to want to participate in the next one, we'll let you know the date and we will have information. And disclaimer, I will put it out here and it will be on that earlier episode, in the episode on Friday. We are not mental health professionals. We are gentlemen that have gone through some stuff, and will provide information and links and help to those who need it and or want it, and are creating a safe space.
We are not just presenters; we are also clients.
Exactly. So,
but
I think it was great, this show.
Now, initially, this was men's. It was a men's mental health stream originally. This is not. Ours is just mental health. It doesn't matter whether you're male, female. You consider yourself a neutral gender, or you're transitioning from one gender to another, or you're just someone who feels like you don't exactly fit in. Come join this stream because you're going to fit in. I guarantee it. Okay, like Dre said, we're not professionals, but we are people. You know, everyone goes through different things in life. I've gone through things that Dre hasn't gone through, and he's gone through things I haven't necessarily gone through. We all have unique perspectives, but when you talk things through, because like has always been a staple of the original mental health streams. Many of us have grown up in families where maybe sharing your thoughts, sharing your fears, your frustrations is something that's not always welcomed in some families. Full disclosure, when I was in high school, I told my parents I wanted to go to college. Everyone in my family, aunts, uncles, cousins, they all looked at me like, you? They all looked at me as if like I was crazy, I was out of my mind. That kind of thing can really mess with a person's head. You know, we all go through different things, different walks of life, but this stream is about talking things through, maybe finding out that, hey, this person's gone through something I went through or something similar. They've gone through it, or they, you know, how did they find the strength, or how did they find the motivation to work their way through it? It might not have been easy, but hey, if this person can do it, then I can do it too. That's really what this is about. It's about sharing ideas, sharing thoughts, or maybe just finding a sounding board to air your thoughts. I mean, hell, how many times do any of you guys want to post something on Facebook or Instagram or somewhere, but you're worried about how someone might react to it? That's a common thing.
Or the reaction that you get from it. Yeah, because some people will, because we know that this is the age. My wife and I just talked about this the other day, that this is an age of the keyboard warrior. People will say some hurtful stuff. And Dave and I've gotten it for being on YouTube. We've heard the hateful stuff, you know, and I just let it roll off my back.
Some of us have seen it in our own community, to be perfectly honest.
Yes. And we don't throw shade. I ain't throwing no shade. There's been, Dave and I've experienced it. I have experienced it firsthand. And that's why the creator safe space exists. The collector safe space exists, because we wanted a community that is a place for positivity and growth. Nerd Affiliated is a great group of dudes. I love everybody over there. And Sal, I know you're in the chat right now, but Sal and I are very good friends now because of this. And Steven, who runs it, Hey Archer, he's a great dude. Rambling.
I mean, he's late. He's late 98% of the time,
late,
but you know,
he's Hollywood.
He's still good. Yeah, he's still good.
He's Hollywood. That's what you expect. So, but like I said, expect that this will be 7 to 8 p.m. And then what we're going to do is, since we know the stream is going to be very mellow, very, it could be quite somber, tears, it could be shed. We're going to go run over to Colbane Games and play some Fortnite and shoot them up. So we stress you guys to go see the serious stuff and then come out, hang out with us for 4 or 5 hours playing that. You know, thank you, Code. I appreciate you, man. That means a lot to me personally. And I know Dave and I work really hard to make these streams for you. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that we do, and this is not just a one-person effort. It's a team effort, and I love my brother for it. Probably one of the best friends I got on the planet, and doesn't even live in the same state as me. So just so you all know, that's real. We keep it a buck here.
And stay tuned, because we're going to be attempting a stream on a weekend in November. So stay tuned to that. It's going to be something like we haven't done before. So keep your eyes out.
And I'm in the process of working on it with him. So we got the notes, and
keep your scanners peeled, buddy.
So we're going to end it here, guys, for the night. Thank you guys so much for staying with us a little bit longer. But tune in on Friday from 7 to 8 p.m. It's going to be an hour-long stream. And then we will throw links to Colbane Games so you guys can go over there with us and follow us on there so you can see the antics are going to go from something serious to more fun. All right. And from myself and Dave, we love you guys. And just make sure you guys watch your heads on the way out of the portal. We'll see you next time.
Catch you later, guys. Take care.